The materials you'll need for this project are gloss colonial red spray paint,
metallic gold spray paint, metallic silver spray paint,
masking tape or painter's tape, a hot glue gun, any scratch paper,
scissors, a box cutter, cardboard, and a pen or pencil. These are the 3 pattern pieces that I came up with for the upper section of the front of the torso. So now I'm going to go transfer these onto some cardboard and then glue them together. Now that I have the pieces traced onto the cardboard, I'm going to link up the middles of each one with a little bit of fabric. So now that I have these 3 plates attached with a little bit of t-shirt fabric, I am now going to fill out the bigger panels below them. I have now finished the front panel of all the plates, and now I am going to wrap it around the back, and that starts about right here, just above this last piece. So this is the piece that's going to wrap around the lower torso, but what I came up with is I cut this little notch so my hip will have a better shape and this can fit closer to my body. A little update with what I'm doing. I just traced the panel pieces onto the side and cut out the middle piece. So now I'm going to go glue those in, and then everything should sit nicely behind the chest plate pieces. And this is just a shot of the inside of how I used elastic on this main piece and then a piece of cardboard to stick those 2 together on the inside for a much stronger bond. So this is what the piece is looking like when it's inset, and the hip pieces are like that, so you can get your hips in there and it can be a much tighter piece around you. So now I'm just gonna fill in the back a little bit more. And by that I mean close it up with some Velcro, and also on the main piece there's this little triangle which I'm also gonna fill in.
In addition to painting this piece colonial red, I also painted another flat piece of cardboard with some metallic gold spray paint, and that's going to be used for some paneling details later on. Then I just looked at my reference image of the whole armor, and I cut out a pattern piece that looked close to that gold detail, and then I traced it onto my gold piece of cardboard, and then I cut it out and glued it on in the right spot, and then I added that tiny little silver detail at the very bottom. Then on the very back, there's also a few more gold panels, and right next to those gold panels on the back, there's also a little bit of silver paneling as well.
And there it is, the torso piece finished. So now I'm going to work on the hip piece and then the thighs after that.
The hip piece started out as a long strip of cardboard, and if you have a bigger piece, then use that, but I had to use 2 pieces and then glue them together. When I glued them together, I added a horizontal cardboard piece just to give it a bit more strength, and then I curled the whole piece up and just attached it together at the back. Then it turned out that it was a bit too narrow, so I just added another piece of cardboard towards the back so it could fit around me.
So now I have designed this piece just to go in between there, and now I'm just gonna glue it on. Now I've finished all the details on the front of the cod piece, so now I just need to do the details on the back, and then I can start working on the thighs and then the shins. Now that this piece is finished, I'm gonna go paint it with some Continental Red.
For painting this piece, I just did a few light layers to build up a nice, smooth, shiny finish.
This is the shape that I have going for the thigh piece, and I'm just going to go trace it onto another piece of cardboard, and then I'll refine the shape a little, cut a few wedges out of the bottom just to make it more form-fitting.
So the thigh pieces just started out as a cylinder, and then I just refined the shape later on, by cutting out some triangles, and that basically tightens it down at the bottom but leaves it wider at the top. The other thigh was built up in the same way, just starting as a cylinder and then cutting some wedges out of it later on. To connect the piece, I just did the same thing with the lower torso. I just took another piece of cardboard and stuck it behind the seam to give it extra support. So now I have the basic cylinders done for the thighs, so now I'm just going to cut a couple of grooves down here just so I can make it a bit tighter on my leg, and then I'll also cut a semicircle out at the top. So I'll do that. When I was cutting the semicircle out of the top, I made sure to be very generous with the circle size so I would have a lot more mobility with my leg. Now with the V grooves on the sides, I made sure to space them out 2.5 to 3 inches apart, and then I would cut about a 1-inch groove and then I would glue it together. Then I use this narrowing technique on the front and the back of both thighs. And make sure that you don't make 2 left thighs or 2 right thighs because that can mix you up a little bit. Depending on your leg size, you could make the taper more dramatic or less dramatic. I decided to go right in the middle. Just to make things simple, I started the V groove at the same height on both of the sides, but you could easily do the front side higher and the back lower, or vice versa. Then on the back, I cut a groove for my knee to bend, and I also did the same thing on the front. But on the front, I added a separate panel just for a bit more detail.
Alright, so these are the thighs finished, and I'm going to go outside and paint them, but the red paint goes about here, and maybe a little bit on the front top, but that's it, and then I'll mask that off, and then paint the rest of it gold.
When I masked this, I made sure to take my time, and then once it came to painting, I also pushed down on the edge of the masking tape just to make sure that no gold paint would seep under and ruin the red coat.
So this is what the shin pieces are starting as. It's just a 15 by 15 inch square, and then I'm going to roll them up, glue them together, and then do a similar thing to what I did with the thighs.
The shins, I just glued them together and then slipped a piece of cardboard down that seam just to hold it together nicely. But the thing that I did different from the thighs here is that I only put the grooves on the back so it would slope in where your calf sloped in. And also I wouldn't glue it together. I just used some elastic so you could slip your foot in the narrow hole. Make sure not to stretch the elastic too much, or else when you try to put it on, it could rip off of the cardboard. Elastic would work better for Velcro than this because it just is easier to pull it rather than to reach your fingers in there and try to remove the Velcro. And at the very front, I made sure to cut a half oval shape so I could flex my foot forward and backward. The longer you spend doing this, the better the finished product will look. Now that the calf pieces are done, and the knee pieces are done, I'm gonna go paint these Continental Red and these gold. When I was painting these, I was running low on my Colonial Red spray paint, so this brings up a good point for me to make. If your can is almost empty, tip it upside down, and that helps get the last few drips of paint out of it, and it could save you from taking a trip to the hardware store to get a new can. Which I did have to do though, because I did eventually run out. The knees are pretty simple, just a few light blasts of some gold spray paint. Then here I am a few days later, just finishing up the patchiness of the unfinished paint job previously. Whenever you're removing masking tape, just make sure not to rush, or you could peel up the paint and maybe a little bit of the cardboard underneath it. Now that I've removed the masking tape, I just need to take these inside and put a few silver paneling details on them, and then I'll make the feet, paint those, and then that's it. Alright, so I just spent about 15 minutes just finishing up these thigh pieces, and I'm just going to take some nylon strapping and strap the side of this to the side of this plate. So I'll do that. Now I have both of the legs attached just by a little bit of nylon strappage. So that is it for the waist thigh combo. So now I just need to finish up the shins and the feet. This is the piece I have for the foot. Just gonna wrap over it, and then the bottom's gonna be attached with some elastic. So I'll go stick the elastic on and then paint them. Painting was very simple. I just made sure not to get any of the red paint on the elastic. Now I have attached the knees after coming back in from painting, so now I'm just going to add all of the silver details. So on both the pieces I finished this little silver detail on the front, but then after looking at the picture I realized that there was more of a silver V shape on the shin piece. So I just drew that on, and I'm gonna go mask it and then paint it silver. After painting this piece, that is it. That is the finished costume. It has been a long journey making this costume, but I am really happy with the finished product. If you have any suggestions on what I should make in the future, please comment them down below, and I'll see what I can do. The next project I'll be working on is the stealth suit from Spider-Man Far From Home, and I'm really looking forward to that one. This has been RGR Productions, signing off till next time.